The Gospel according to John, chapter 9, passage 2. The Pharisees investigate the healing. They brought the man who had been blind to the Pharisees. Now it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. Again, the Pharisees asked him how he had received his sight. He said to them, "He put mud on my eyes, I washed, and now I see." Some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath." Others asked, "But how can a sinner perform such signs?" So there was division among them. They turned again to the blind man. "What have you to say about him? It was your eyes he opened." The man replied, "He is a prophet." The Jews still did not believe that he had been blind and had received his sight until they sent for the man's parents. "Is this your son?" they asked. "Is this the one you say was born blind? How is it that now he can see?" "We know he is our son," the parents answered, "and we know he was born blind. But how he can see now, or who opened his eyes, we don't know. Ask him. He is of age, he will speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders, who already had decided that anyone who acknowledged that Jesus was the Messiah would be put out of the synagogue. That was why his parents said, "He is of age, ask him." A second time they summoned the man who had been blind. "Give glory to God by telling the truth," they said. "We know this man is a sinner." He replied, "Whether he is a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know. I was blind but now I see." Then they asked him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered, "I have told you already and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" Then they hurled insults at him and said, "You are this fellow's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but as for this fellow, we don't even know where he comes from." The man answered, "Now that is remarkable. You don't know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners. He listens to the godly person who does his will. Nobody has ever heard of opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." To this they replied, "You were steeped in sin at birth. How dare you lecture us?" And they threw him out. Reading these words, let us reflect more deeply. In this passage from the Gospel according to John, the man healed from blindness is brought before the Pharisees, who try to understand how the miracle occurred, as it took place on the Sabbath. The Pharisees are divided. Some say Jesus is not from God because he does not observe the Sabbath, while others question how a sinner could perform such signs. The Pharisees also interrogate the healed man's parents, who confirm their son was born blind but don't know how he regained his sight. The parents fear the Jews, who had decided that anyone acknowledging Jesus as the Messiah would be expelled from the synagogue, so they refer the Pharisees back to their son to answer for himself. The healed man retells his story, emphasizing that he knows only that he was blind but now sees. When the Pharisees ask again how Jesus opened his eyes, the man responds ironically, questioning if they too wish to become Jesus' disciples. The Pharisees react with outrage, claiming to be disciples of Moses and asserting they do not know where Jesus comes from. The healed man argues logically, God does not listen to sinners, but listens to those who do his will, so if Jesus opened his eyes, he must be from God. Unable to contradict this reasoning, the Pharisees throw him out. This passage highlights the clash between faith and legalism, as well as the injustice and hardened hearts of those who reject Jesus. It calls us to be open to God's work and to have a faith that transcends human prejudices and judgments. If you enjoy the way we conduct these conversations and wish for more topics like these to be created, you can support this work. Details can be found in the description. God bless you for your kindness.